Reinstall the drive end head either from the top or bottom openings of the drive pedestal. Lock the drive end head into position with the correct product port orientation in either the 12 or 6 o'clock position. With the mutator shaft still sitting in the shaft removal skid, insert them together into the non-drive end of the heat exchanger and slowly push the mutator shaft through the drive end head and into the gear reducer. As the mutator shaft spline is entering into the hollow bore shaft of the gear reducer, rotate the shaft slightly to allow the spline to align it to the mating splines in the gear reducer. It's important not to slam the mutator shaft into position, or damage to the drive end seal faces could occur. The last scraper blade on the non-drive end should be flush with the end of the product tube. At this point, remove the shaft skid by lifting up on the mutator shaft on the non-drive end and rotate the shaft skid to the 12 o'clock position and remove it from the cylinder. Insert the head removal tool through the head, bearing, and into the threaded end of the mutator shaft. Then, slide the non-drive end head over the tool and up onto the stub end of the mutator shaft. Position the head to accept the mating product tube locking lugs. Once the head is engaged on the product tube, rotate the head and position the product head connection. Remove the head tool and rag. Then, swing the bayonet locking arm into position and tighten down the wing nut. Insert the head removal tool through the extra heavy-duty head, bearing, and into the threaded end of the mutator shaft. Slide the non-drive end head over the tool and up onto the stub end of the mutator shaft. Position the head to accept the mating product tube locking lugs. Once the head is engaged on the product tube, rotate the head and position the product head connection. Remove the head removal tool and rag, then swing the bayonet locking arm into position and tighten down the wing nut. When the rotary joint option is required, insert the heater pipe support on the non-drive end and through the hollow mutator shaft. Attach the left-hand threaded lock nut onto the mutator shaft by hand. If the rotary joint option is required, place the O-ring onto the threaded end of the shaft lock nut. Once the lock nut cannot be turned by hand, utilize the lock nut wrench and strike once or twice to lock down. Do not over-tighten or you run the risk of damaging the threads. Install the bearing retainer and nut guard assembly, also known as the front safety cover, onto the non-driven end head by positioning the sanitary hinged clamp, inserting the bolt, washer, and nut. Install the extra heavy-duty bearing retainer and nut guard assembly, also known as the front safety cover, onto the non-driven end extra heavy-duty head by positioning the two-piece sanitary clamp and inserting the bolts, washers, and nuts. Insert the rotary joint and shaft heater pipe assembly through the shaft lock nut with the green flat gasket. Place an open-end wrench on the flat shoulder and tighten into the shaft lock nut in a countercurrent direction. Install the two-piece driver and shaft guard over the mutator shaft by positioning the covers from the top and bottom of the pedestal space and tightening the 4 small bolts and nuts. Locate the oil drain port plug, place a bucket under the port to catch oil, and begin loosening the oil drain plug. Drain oil from the gearbox and collect into a bucket for appropriate disposal. Once the oil has completely drained, replace the oil drain plug with the gasket and tighten. Go to the top of the gearbox and locate the vent port. Loosen the vent plug. Place a funnel in the port opening and fill the gearbox with Mobile SHC's Cybus 220. Simultaneously, locate the oil level plug on the front face to ensure oil level is 15/100 inch, 4 mm below the oil level hole. Replace the vent plug and tighten. Following these procedures will help you properly maintain your SPX Flow Waukesha Cherry Burrell Votator Scraped Surface Heat Exchanger to maximize operating life and maintain process integrity. To order genuine replacement parts or tools, contact your authorized SPX Flow sales representative or visit www.spxflow.com/WCB for more information.